So for International Women's Day, I'd like to talk about some of the women who have inspired me and those that I admire in cycling. First of all, Joanna Rouswell and Laura Trott, multiple gold medalists at the London 2012 and at the Rio 2016 Olympics on the track. These are two girls that I've known for quite some time, and notably because when they first started out as teenagers, I was out there riding with them. I was probably in my 30s at that time, but they were just really girls there, slip of girls, but they were really motivated and doing well for themselves. Often we'd be out, and when we were riding, it would be rather inclement conditions, sometimes training sessions on a wet Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon in a godforsaken track somewhere in the southeast. But the girls were really keen to get out there and put themselves out there, and they were motivated to do well for themselves. And this was at a time when there wasn't actually that much funding, so they would have been paying quite a bit of it themselves, or at least their parents would have been paying, but they were still keen to just get out and continue to ride, and that was very inspiring. Some of you may also know that they both had to overcome adversity, in as much as Laura will have been born with a collapsed lung, and she had to really fight to get through that as a baby. And Joanna, as a teenager, suffered from alopecia, which she still suffers from now, but she didn't let that hold her back, and she was even more motivated to do well in cycling. Another person that I admire is Rochelle Gilmore. She's a Commonwealth medalist at the road races, an Australian international cycle racer, and more recently she's become the general manager of the Wiggle High Five team. It's a very successful elite women's team, and Rochelle has worked very hard for the team to secure decent conditions for the racers, and also to provide the best training facilities for them and the best support. As an individual, she's incredibly supportive. She has a lot of time for the riders, and she really puts in the hours in order to get the best out of them and the best for her team. As well as that, she's a broadcaster on BBC Sport. She commentates for the cycle races on the BBC, usually with Chris Boardman, and she's just an all-round nice lady. The other high-profile person that I'd like to mention is Rachel Atherton. She seems to be the unsung hero in all of this, because she's achieved a lot as a world champion downhill mountain bike racer, but she doesn't seem to get as much coverage, largely because downhill mountain biking isn't actually an Olympic event. But she has won it 4 times, the World Downhill Mountain Bike Championships, and she's had a run of about 15 races where she was unbeaten, I think in the World Cup as well as in World Championship events. Recently she was honoured at the World Laureus Sports Awards. She obtained the Action Person of the Year, so that was good news. But I really like the fact that she's just been soldiering on, plugging away year after year for about the last 15 years as a cycle racer, and she's really inspired a lot of young women to get into mountain biking and downhill mountain biking. I certainly turned up at 1 or 2 of her events, the Red Bull Fox Hunt notably, and even an old bird like me still got something out of the weekend that I had with her, throwing myself down a hill. It was very inspiring to be with her and to get encouragement from her. Then there are a few other women that I'd like to mention, perhaps not as high profile as the 3 that I've just mentioned, the 4 that I've just mentioned even. So I've got on my list here Emily Brooke, the woman who invented the Blaze lights. You may have seen them. They're the green lights that are projected onto the ground on the Boris bikes or the Santander bikes. They're green and they actually get projected ahead of the rider so that the other road users can see them approaching prior to their arrival at that spot. I remember meeting Emily about 4 years ago, I think it was now, at a cycle show in Manchester, and at that time she was trying to secure funding in order to get her idea going, to get her idea off the ground, or even on the ground, as is the case with these lights. And I really admire the fact that she's gone on and she's really plugged away with this, and now these lights are just commonplace now on the Santander bikes. Eddie Brocklesby is another person that I have a lot of admiration for. She took up cycling and running and triathlon even at the age of 50 following the death of her husband. But 20 years on, at the age of 70 now, she's still doing triathlon, still riding, and she's encouraging older people to get into sport through her Silver Fit charity. It's an organisation that encourages older people to get into sport. The other person that I'd like to mention is Carolyn Hewitt. She's actually now in the States. I met her, I think it was a few years ago now, but she now lives in Colorado. But she's got a company, a cycle touring company, in which they take people on various trips around the United States and also the mountain ranges in Europe. Sadly, she was the victim of quite a terrible accident in which she was trampled on by a horse, and so she's in recovery mode now. But despite that, she's still getting out there, still encouraging people to ride, and she's still fighting to get back to the form that she had prior to the accident. There are loads of other women that I could mention, but unfortunately we only have 24 hours on this International Women's Day, so I can't really say much more. Also, my tape is running out, my memory is running out on my camera, so I'll just leave it there. But the one thing I will say is that hopefully in the future we won't need to have these International Women's Days. We should be able to just see women's achievements as commonplace and not have to specifically celebrate an International Women's Cycling Day, just like we don't specifically need to do that with the men.